I will be reading from this book, Last Day Events by Ellen G. White. I'll be reading from chapter 1, the first two paragraphs, entitled Widespread Apprehension About the Future, concerning Earth's Last Crisis. Widespread apprehension about the future. The present is a time of overwhelming interest to all living. Rulers and statesmen, men who occupy positions of trust and authority, thinking men and women of all classes, have their attention fixed upon the events taking place about us. They are watching the relations that exist among the nations. They observe the intensity that is taking possession of earthly element, and they recognize that something great and decisive is about to take place, that the world is on the verge of a stupendous crisis. This is from Prophets and Kings, page 537. Quoted in this book, Last Day Events. The next paragraph states, the calamities by land and sea, the unsettled state of society, the alarms of war, are portentous. They forecast approaching events of the greatest magnitude. The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. They are strengthening for the last great crisis. Great changes are soon to take place in our world, and the final movements will be rapid ones. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 9, page 11. The next set of quotations, group of quotations, is entitled Troublous Times Soon to Come, still under this chapter, Earth's Last Crisis. Troublous times soon to come. The time of trouble, which is to increase until the end, is very near at hand. We have no time to lose. The world is stirred with a spirit of war. The prophecies of the 11th of Daniel have almost reached their final fulfillment. The Review and Herald, November 24, 1904. And from a manuscript release, number 3, 300, page 305 in 1906. The time of trouble. Trouble such as was not since there was a nation, mentioned in Daniel 12 verse 1, is right upon us, and we are like the sleeping virgins. We are to awake and ask the Lord Jesus to place underneath us His everlasting arms and carry us through the time of trial before us. And this one is from the Review and Herald, February 11, 1904. The world is becoming more and more lawless. Soon, great trouble will arise among the nations, trouble that will not cease until Jesus comes. The Review and Herald, February 11, 1904. And from a testimony for the Church, Volume 9, page 43. We are on the very verge of the time of trouble, and perplexities are scarcely dreamed of are before us. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 9, page 43. And this one is from Prophets and Kings, page 278. We are standing on the threshold of the crisis of the ages. In quick succession, the judgments of God will follow one another. Fire and blood and earthquake with war and bloodshed. Prophets and Kings, page 278. And this one from Christian Service, page 136. There are stormy times before us, but let us not utter one word of unbelief or discouragement. Christian Service, page 136. Now another group of paragraphs or quotations is entitled, God has always warned of coming events. Still under the chapter, Earth's Last Crisis. God has always warned of coming judgments. God has always given man warning of coming judgments. Those who had faith in His message for this time and who acted out their faith in obedience to His commandments escaped the judgments that fell upon the disobedient and the unbelieving. The word came to Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee I have seen righteousness before me. Noah obeyed and was saved. The message came to Lot, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. Genesis 7 verse 1 and 19 verse 14. Lot placed himself under the guardianship of the heavenly messengers and was saved. So Christ's disciples were given warning of the destruction of Jerusalem. Those who watched for the sign of the coming ruin and fled from the city escaped the destruction. So now we are given warning of Christ's second coming and of the destruction to fall upon the world. Those who heed the warning will be saved. Now this is quoted from the Desire of Ages, page 634, 1898 edition. Another set of paragraphs still under Earth's Last Crisis is entitled, God has told us what to expect in our day. Before His crucifixion, the Savior explained to His disciples that He was to be put to death and to rise again from the tomb. And angels were present to impress His words on minds and hearts. But the disciples were looking for temporal deliverance from the Roman yoke, and they could not tolerate the thought that He, in whom all their hopes centered, should suffer an ignominious death. The words which they needed to remember were banished from their minds, and when the time of trial came, it found them unprepared. The death of Jesus fully destroyed their hopes as if He had not forewarned them. So in the prophecies, the future is opened before us, as plainly as it was opened to the disciples by the words of Christ. The events connected with the close of probation and the work of preparation for the last time of trouble are clearly presented. But multitudes have no more understanding of these important truths than if they had never been revealed. The Great Controversy, page 594, 1911 edition. And the last group of quotations in this chapter, Earth's Last Crisis, of this book, Last Day Events. Last day prophecies demand our attention. I then saw the third angel, Revelation 14, 9-11. Said my accompanying angel, fearful is his word, awful is his mission. He is the angel that is to select the wheat from the tares, and seal or bind the wheat for the heavenly garner. These things should engross the whole mind, the whole attention. Early Writings, page 118, 1854 edition. These things should engross the whole mind and the whole attention. And this one from Testimonies for the Church, chapters, volume 6, page 128, 129, 1901 edition. We shall have to stand before magistrates to answer for our allegiance to the law of God, to make known the reason of our faith, and the youth should understand these things. They should know the things that will come to pass before the closing up of the world's history. These things concern our eternal welfare, and teachers and students should give more attention to them. Testimonies for the Church, volume 6, page 128, 129, 1901 edition. From a manuscript release, number 4, page 163 of 1825, released 1895. We should study the great waymarks that point out the times in which we are living. There we have it, the word waymarks. We should study the great waymarks that point out the time in which we are living. Manuscript release number 4, page 163, 1895. From Testimonies for the Church, volume 7, page 14, 1902 edition. Those who place themselves under God's control, to be led and guided by Him, will catch the steady thread of the events ordained by Him to take place. Testimonies for the Church, volume 7, page 14. And the last quotation is from Testimonies for the Church, volume 8, page 307, 1904 edition. We are to see in history the fulfillment of prophecy, to study the workings of providence in the great reformatory movements, and to understand the progress of events in the marshalling of the nations for the final conflict of the great controversy. Testimonies for the Church, volume 8, page 307, 1904 edition. So that's our chapter, first chapter in this book, Last Day Events, entitled Earth's Last Crisis. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.